Hi, I am Niharika Nanda and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. This week on the show, we've been looking back at some of the biggest moments of 2024. Yesterday, we discussed the key events that shaped Indian politics last year. And today, we're focusing on prominent trends in the health sector. Now, in recent years, there has been a growing emphasis on healthy lifestyles and fitness. And in 2024, this trend evolved with a stronger focus on the narrative of self-care. Some of the major health trends in 2024 included increased attention to elderly care, skin care, the rise of weight loss drugs, and a concerning rise in the cases of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease among younger people. Later in the show, the Indian Express's Rinku Ghosh will join us to share insights on the latest skincare trends and concerns around fatty liver disease. But first, we are joined by the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt to discuss elderly care and developments in weight loss drugs. Anonna, to begin with, what are the major health issues faced by the elderly?
So this has been a year of, geriatric healthcare. We have spoken a lot about the kind of trends in the challenges that the elderly face. So when it comes to the healthcare challenges of the elderly, there are a couple of things that most doctors would agree, big things that we have to look at. One is, of course, bone health. Bone health is very big challenge with the elderly, especially because they are at a high risk of falls and breaks. Then, of course, there are challenges with the heart diseases. When you age, the risk of heart diseases goes up. And also risks of diseases such as heart failure increases. Then there are, of course, challenges with the brain. So one of the biggest concerns now is dementia. There has been an increase in the incidence of dementia, and it's also getting diagnosed more and more often as people have started making health their priority, getting tested often. So we are detecting more of the dementia cases as well. So that is a very big problem for the elderly. Then, of course, strokes are something that, again, are very common in the elderly. Happens in the young as well, but we do see that in the elderly.
Right. And talking about bone health, in what ways does aging affect people's bones?
So as you age, your bones are likely to become more fragile and brittle. And also you are more likely to have conditions like osteoporosis, which again makes it very easy for the bones to break if you do take a fall. So what we were told is that, in people over the age of 60, 15% of them take at least one fall every year, and at least 1% of these falls result in hospitalization. So falls can become life-threatening in certain cases. And one of the biggest concerns is when it comes to breaks of the hip bone. So hip fractures are a big concern. In fact, there is a lot of research that has shown that hip fracture is not just about the bone health. So Dr. Rajesh Malhotra, who's a renowned orthopedician, he talks about how, hip fractures are linked to mortality. So within a year of a hip fracture, nearly 40% of Indians die. And that could be because of different causes. So that's a very important marker, so to say. Other than that, of course, there is an age-related wear and tear of different joints, a knee joint being the most common. And so far, what the doctors used to see is that people over the age of, say, 70 or 80 would hardly get a knee replacement because they would think that this is, the end of life and they wouldn't want to spend on it. But then again, a bad knee also increases the risk of falls and hip fracture that I've mentioned earlier. And with, expanding lifespan, now more and more doctors are seeing that patients over the age of 80 are getting these replacement surgeries.
Now coming to heart health, what puts elderly people's heart health at risk majorly?
So when it comes to heart health, it happens over time. And of course, we do see a lot of challenges even in the young in India. But over the years, if you've had high cholesterol levels, high blood pressure, all of this contributes towards the worsening of the heart vessels and eventual heart attack or heart failure. So the best way to prevent these problems is to keep all the other ailments in check. And of course, you can get certain tests. For example, what the doctors say is that if you just keep your parameters in check, of course, not just the conditions, but, things like hemoglobin levels and other parameters that you get in a blood test, you don't really need any specialized test unless you're having a heart pain or, shortness of breath or any symptoms like this, in which case you should consult your doctor and get the necessary testing done. That is the only way to keep your heart healthy.
And Anonna, as you mentioned, post-COVID, it has been seen that neurocognitive conditions like dementia have increased in senior citizens. So what do health professionals have to say about this?
When it comes to brain health, stroke is a major challenge, and stroke can happen again because of various conditions, primarily high cholesterol levels, high blood sugar levels, high BP. All of this contribute towards a stroke. So again, keeping everything in check will help. When it comes to dementia, there are certain things that can be done. So the doctors say that especially in the elderly, social isolation is a big challenge, and that leads to further worsening of cognitive abilities, which is why they say that the elderly should maintain like a social circle, have people that they are in touch with regularly, have conversations with people. They could participate in things like solving puzzles or learning a new language. All of these keep the brain active so that there's no deterioration in the memory. Having a social circle also prevents depression, which is a major challenge in the elderly. So all of that can help. And of course, getting diagnosed early on is a major challenge. Sometimes we tend to think that they're old, that's why they're forgetting things. But it is essential to keep note of what is happening. So people with dementia would often forget that they have forgotten things. So they might say that, oh, I have not had lunch, but they will, forget that they have had this conversation with you. So people around the patient should notice these signs. If there's change in the mood, if there's change in their personalities. So someone who, say, for their entire life did not like having sweets and suddenly they are craving sweets. So these kind of changes can alert to deteriorating memory and cognitive functions, and patients should be taken to a doctor at this point.
Right. And how would you say the government has played a role in taking care of the senior population of the country?
The government has now expanded its key Ayushman Bharat health insurance to anybody over the age of 70 years, irrespective of income. And there has also been a concerted effort from the insurance regulator of the country to say that, people over the age of 65 years should also be able to buy new health policies. So these are some of the measures that have been taken by the government, which have brought this elder care to the fore.
And Anonna, another issue that was talked about a lot this year was weight loss drugs and whether or not should they be consumed. So can you tell us about that?
So the new generation of weight loss drugs, these are called GLP-1 receptor agonists, and they work by giving you the feeling of being full. So they regulate some of these digestive hormones and make you feel full so that you eat less. And these new drugs have resulted in remarkable weight loss. In some cases, up to 25% of the body weight, which is something that previously would be achieved only through bariatric surgery. So this is the reason, these drugs have been in the discussion for the last couple of years. Beginning, of course, with semaglutide, and then we have another approved molecule called tirzepatide. There are several of these molecules which are in clinical trials right now with the GLP-1 targets as well as other targets too, to demonstrate weight loss. So this is the reason these have been in talks. But other than weight loss, there have been studies of these molecules on its impact on different organs in the body this year. So there have been studies on its impact on kidney health, its impact on heart health, the impact on obstructive sleep apnea, the impact on peripheral neuropathy, which is a common complication of, people who live several years with diabetes, where their nerve endings are damaged. So all of this there has been a positive impact. There are still studies going on, but a lot of conditions which are caused by obesity, such as heart diseases and even in some cases like obstructive sleep apnea, for example, one of the major risk factors for it is obesity. So all of these diseases are also getting impacted as there is a weight drop with the use of these drugs. That is what we have seen so far this year.
So what age group of people should be consuming these drugs, and are they suitable for young adults and adolescents?
So yes, there are studies that are going on for different age groups, but the essential criteria is, of course, anybody who has obesity and may have other conditions which are worsened by obesity, such as heart problems or, diabetes, things like that. They can be put on this medicine.
Right. And Anonna, we also heard that the WHO had also endorsed a weight loss drug. So what kind of an impact does that have when a leading health organization talks about certain drugs?
So these are expensive drugs. So it has majorly been in people who can afford to take these drugs long term. We have had celebrities endorse these drugs. So there was a viewpoint that was published by top scientists from the World Health Organization, which said that these drugs may be used to probably turn the tide of the obesity pandemic. And when such a recommendation comes, and in fact, in the same viewpoint, they have mentioned that WHO would be coming up with a set of guidelines on who should be using these drugs, in what conditions they should be given, who should avoid these drugs. All of that would be provided in a set of guidelines. So when this kind of recommendation comes, the use of these drugs becomes more programmatic. Then this becomes the recommended treatment for certain conditions, which means more people are likely to have access to these drugs. And some of these drugs are coming off patent also in the next couple of years. So that would mean cheaper versions, generic versions of the drugs might also become available in the market after that, making it more accessible to people.
Right. And do we see these drugs limiting or putting a pause to obesity? What do medical professionals have to say about this?
So it's a great help for obesity because so far the only intervention in people, for whom diet and exercise failed to achieve significant weight loss was bariatric surgery. Here it is a, medicine that can be given. It is an injectable drug which needs to be taken once a week. So it's a good alternative and it gives them a boost. So they have to continue to make changes to their diet as well as, exercise more. But this gives them a boost to start losing weight. However, there are certain things that have to be kept in mind. Not everybody can be given this drug. There are contraindications. So it can result in, some rare side effects like paralysis of the gastrointestinal tract. It can lead to pancreatitis, which is inflammation of the pancreas, or it could even lead to thyroid cancer in some. So there are certain people who should not be given this drug. This drug should not be prescribed indiscriminately, and there is quite a few side effects that people have to worry about. So in the initial few weeks when people take this medicine, there are a lot of side effects like nausea, vomiting. So all of that also has to be kept in mind. And another point that the doctors raise is we still don't know for how long we can continue to take these medicines, because trials have already started showing that once the medicines are stopped, people do start gaining back the weight that they had lost. So, which is why it is essential to understand, how long can you keep taking these medicines before they become ineffective.
Now we'll be joined by the Indian Express's Rinku Ghosh, who will be sharing insights on skincare centered around ceramides and peptides and growth in the cases of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in younger people. Rinku, can you begin by talking about the shift in perception that skincare has seen in the past year or so?
Oh, yes. Now, everybody is looking at their skin not just as a cosmetic layer, not just as a gift wrapping for the body to look beautiful. For the first time, they are treating skin with the seriousness that they would treat their other organs, say a heart, liver, or kidneys. For the first time, they are respecting the skin, which is the biggest organ in our body. And, that is something we never realize. It's the biggest organ in our body. It needs as much care and as much attention to detail and as much lifestyle management to keep it healthy. Now, there are a lot of cultural reasons why this has happened. I can't say that it happened overnight, right? It has happened over the last 2-3 years, maybe in the post-COVID years to be more precise. What happened post-COVID is a lot of us had long COVID, right? Now, one of the consequences of long COVID was a very rough skin and a lot of skin rashes, skin bursts. People grappled with those problems. That was the physical manifestation of it. Culturally now what happened during the COVID years, we also got addicted to a lot of Korean influences by way of K-drama, K-pop, and of course the Korean glass skin, which had an entire generation wanting to have so-called glass skin. What this desire fueled was an understanding of Korean creams, which came rich with ceramides. So what they did was gave their skin a glowing, healthy look. And that again set in turn a motion among the pharma industry to roll out an entire line of cosmetic creams with the punchline, with ceramides, with ceramides, with ceramides. So culturally, it drove the perception that the skin needs much more serious looking after, much more attention. And that's the reason that people started talking about, and especially the younger generation started talking about ceramides, peptides, what their creams are made of.
Right. And along with the exposure to Korean culture, what other causes might have led to this change in perception?
Of course, Korean was just a cultural reason. There were more physical reasons for that. And that is one I mentioned was long COVID, which resulted in a massive upsurge in skin-related problems for long COVID survivors. The second most important factor was pollution. For the first time, we became aware of the fact that our skin problems are not only the result of our food allergies. It was because of the rising levels of PM 2.5 and particulate matter across the world. Pollutants, they tear down your external layer of the skin with the ferocity of a knife. So rising pollution also fueled this desire to do something to protect the skin. And the third most important factor was the quest for longevity and agelessness. This was also the year where healthy aging as a concept really took off. So as part of the aging well exercise, people realized that skin needed as much care as other organs in the body.
Now, talking about ceramides and peptides, can you tell us a little bit more in detail about them?
So ceramides are lipids or fatty acids that comprise about 50% of the skin's outer layer. So what does it do? Now imagine a brick and mortar building. Okay, you're building a house, you're putting brick and you're putting mortar. Now consider, for example, that each brick is a cell. What is lying between the bricks? Mortar to hold them together. And what do you put after the brick and mortar job is done? You put a layer of plaster. So ceramides is your plaster. It protects you from everything that is environmentally toxic to your skin. It is called the skin barrier. It is that external skin barrier which protects you from all kinds of toxins from entering. And the lesser toxins that enter your skins, the lesser the chances of skin eruptions and skin-related ailments. A lot of skin problems are now environmental. So what do? They help strengthen the skin's protective barrier. They prevent moisture loss and they protect it during exposure to a damaging environment. And with pollution increases, the role of the skin barrier becomes paramount. Now, ceramides and fatty acids are present in our bodies. In our younger ages, we should be having healthy levels of it. But as we age, their levels dip. Or as we are exposed to harsher elements, they wear off quickly. Which is why we need a ceramide product to make up for the loss that a body suffers. If a body is not making enough ceramides, we get it from a ceramide-rich cream. That's ceramide. You also asked me about peptides. So let me talk about peptides. Now, these are nothing but amino acids. What are amino acids? These are the building blocks of protein. So, in other words, I can say they are components of protein. So, they are the repairers. So, if ceramide is the protector, peptides are the repairers.
And Rinku, talking about skin, something that has been a major concern for people since many years has been aging. So, from what we understand, peptides can help deal with that?
What is aging? But when your skin degenerates. So they protect you against this degeneration by constantly supplying a layer of proteins. They improve the skin's ability to produce collagen and elastin. Now, collagen and elastin are proteins that give the skin its elasticity, its bounciness, its tautness, and texture. And when all these four elements are taken care of, what do we get? An anti-aging formula. And that is why peptides are called the anti-aging cream. And they can heal inflammation, they can take care of your scars, acne. This is something that the young generation suffers from a lot. Acne is a common problem for the youth, and peptides prevent that.
So, Rinku, is there any age group which would focus on using these products with ceramides and peptides? And with the large amount of products available in the market, what would you say people should keep in mind while getting these products?
So far as age groups are concerned, anybody can use it. But I would say that anybody from 6 to 18 can very well do without it. Because in childhood and early adolescence, even later adolescence, your body is in a developmental stage anyway. It is only after you are in your 20s that ceramide levels tend to dip because of exposure to the elements, largely. So if you start your skincare routine from 20s, then definitely they can hold you good for the next few decades. So if you're choosing a ceramide or a peptide cream, just go to a shop shelf, look at the label. If your ceramide is listed or your peptide is listed in the top 5 items in a descending order, that cream is good to pick up. But they should be in the top 5 and in the descending order. Usually they are listed in the descending order. So if the top 5 elements have ceramides and peptides mentioned, they're good to go. Also, sometimes you would find ceramide creams come with suffixes like EOS. Now, EOS means it has anti-inflammatory properties. NS means it restores the skin's barrier function. Suppose it's NP, it enhances moisture. AP has gentle exfoliating properties. EOP improves texture and appearance of dry, damaged or aging skin. So these suffixes are very important for you to make the guided choice for your skin. For peptides, you should be looking for anything that is ending with palmitoyl, PALMitoyL. That is what you need to look at. And the best among peptides is copper peptides. Now, this is a recent rage, and it is colloquially called Botox in a bottle because it helps relax facial muscles and it kind of reduces and repairs your wrinkles.
Right. And another health issue that has been on the rise over the past year or so has been fatty liver. So, can you tell us a little bit about that and how it impacts the liver?
Sure. See, it's not just fatty liver that we will talk about today. Fatty liver is an umbrella term. What we need to be really careful about is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I was at a doctor's chamber the other day and I saw youngsters, 21-year-old to say 32-year-old, they have all come up with complaints of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and none of them have ever drunk in their lives. None of them are smokers, and yet they have been detected with this condition. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or what we call NAFLD, is a condition in which fat builds up in your liver and over time damages the organ like it would if you were an alcoholic. So this is usually seen in overweight people or those with abdominal or belly fat. The moment we go overweight, and Indians have a tendency to accumulate fat around the abdomen and the liver. That is where the fatty deposits are happening. And what happens when fat deposits itself on the liver is it becomes inflamed, it swells up, it scars, and once it scars, then the disintegration of the liver happens. So that is why NAFLD is a growing concern across diverse age groups. And directly it is associated, let me tell you, with obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood sugar. All of this is associated with NAFLD.
So, Rinku, can you tell us how one can prevent non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or reverse it in case it has been diagnosed?
Reversal is possible only if it is diagnosed in the early stages, which is why we should all go and get a fatty liver check done. And if our doctor, a simple ultrasound test should reveal whether we have a fatty liver or not. The moment we are diagnosed, we should immediately switch over to a clean diet. Other than that, of course, regular exercise, 150 minutes of moderately vigorous exercise as recommended by the WHO. So that is a minimum thing that we should do. We should not neglect exercise. We can't be saying that today, let's forget it. It's a foggy day. It's a cold day. I won't step out. I don't have enough time. We must make time for an indoor routine then. So regular exercise, weight management, and a balanced diet are all you need. You must reduce intake of sugar, saturated fat, especially from processed foods, as I mentioned. Have fiber-rich foods. So once you have done your basic lifestyle correction, which means a clean diet, you stick to your exercise schedule no matter what, and you sleep well so that the body can regenerate and there's no energy deficit in your body and you don't feel fatigued to do the same drill every day, then you're sorted and you can prevent fatty liver and you can also reverse it or halt its progression if it is detected in the early stages.
And Rinku, the government has issued certain guidelines regarding NAFLD. So can you tell us about that?
Oh yes, the guidelines were issued over the last couple of months simply because NAFLD is now a public health concern. So what is the aim of this? It is basically to raise awareness, promote early diagnosis, and encourage preventive measures. So once you have it in the guidelines, then you will feel the need to go for screening. There will be better treatment infrastructure. There will be better awareness of what your risk factors are. Now, usually what we do is when the pathologist or the doctor tells us you have slight fatty liver, we generally tend to ignore it. The purpose of the guidelines is not to ignore any recommendation made by your healthcare professional about your liver and get into screening and early treatment. That's it.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.